Right, attempt number 5 recording this after yesterday's chaos with this machine recording it, but fingers crossed we can get through today. Now let's start this video with a little disclaimer. I'm not saying I wish to see Jarrod Bowen as the striker at West Ham next season. I'm not. I guess what I'm suggesting, and probably badly talking nonsense, is I wouldn't mind seeing Jarrod Bowen as a striker at West Ham now and again next season as an alternative to Mikel Antonio and any other striker that we signed this summer. I'm intrigued by it, let's put it like that, and I'm interested to get your thoughts as well. Like I said, probably talking nonsense, but I've been doing that for 6 years. I'm not going to stop now. But there's 2 or 3 reasons for my thought process here. A couple of them merge into each other, we'll get on to that, but the one that's triggered it, the reason that's triggered this thought process is Sunday's game against Manchester City. Now obviously I know he didn't play in the middle against Man City. That was Antonio. He played in his best position, and it is his best position, on the right hand side of our attack. But I thought his movement was excellent. And again, I concede that becomes from playing alongside Mikel Antonio on Sunday. He's occupying the centre backs. He and Fornals provides him with the chances that he goes on to score from as well. But I think you would see a similar high level of movement from Jarrod Bowen regardless of where he played among West Ham's attacking options. I think you'd see something similar from the middle or even on the left hand side if needs must. But more importantly, his finishing. I thought his finishing on Sunday was outstanding. If we were to go and sign a striker for 40, 50, 60 million in the summer, and we were to get that level of finishes from him and that level of goal output, 18 goals in all competitions now for Jarrod Bowen, I'd be delighted. I would chalk that up as a success. I'm aware you've got to take other things into consideration as well, but just as a rule of thumb, 18 goals and that type of finishing, I'd be very happy with that. And this is what we're talking about, as 50, 60 million pound signing. But with Jarrod Bowen, I thought he was excellent on Sunday, but them 2 finishes in particular, for some reason, left me purring a little bit. I wanted more. I just wanted to see more of Jarrod Bowen and more goal scoring opportunities next season, and maybe, like I said, as an alternative to Antonio and anyone else that we bring in to play up there in the summer. Because the first one, he's pretty much through on goal, isn't he? He's got the keeper coming out at him, he stays calm, he's composed, rounds the goalkeeper, finished from a very tight angle as well. It's an excellent finish, excellent goal. But the second one's even more impressive for me because he's got a lot of work to do. He picks the ball up, it's a good ball from Antonio, he picks up Jarrod Bowen, and he's still got a lot of work to do. He's got the City defence bearing down on him. He does well, he holds on to it, uses his body well, fends off the defenders. Then it's a completely different type of finish from Jarrod Bowen, but just as good and arguably more impressive for me. And you have to take into context the goalkeeper in this situation, in my opinion. He's one of the best in the world, isn't he, Ederson? A world-class goalkeeper. If you were to ask neutrals and who is the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, I reckon 45% would say Ederson, another 45% would say Alisson, and the remaining 10 would pick a other goalkeeper from the other 18. But outstanding goalkeeper, world class keeper, Jarrod Bowen beat him twice. I could be wrong. I think the only other players to do that this season, score a brace in one game against City, is Harry Kane and Benzema. So there you go. That's the calibre of striker or player that we're talking about to stick the ball in City's net. I thought Jarrod Bowen was fantastic. And it just left me wondering, would I mind seeing Jarrod Bowen as in that striker role next season now and again? No, I really wouldn't. Of course, I'm aware of what the obvious issue is, and this is my second reason, which was David Moyes' comments after the January transfer window. He suggested that the backup to Antonio as the striker at West Ham for the remainder of the season would be Jarrod Bowen. Now, I wasn't keen on that because who's then the backup to Jarrod Bowen? I think if you had an issue up front, you put Bowen up there, that's fine, but you've now got an issue on the right of your attack. You're moving, in my opinion, our most important player out of his best position and creating a problem. You're just moving the problem, essentially. So in order to do this next season, we would have to have adequate replacement for Jarrod Bowen's right hand side attacking position, if you like. Now there's obviously one player that I think would be absolutely perfect for this. Unlikely to get him, would be a bit too expensive, and I don't think we're going to go after him or anything like that. It's just a thought process. And that would be Brennan Johnson of Nottingham Forest, who can play on the right and can also play striker, funnily enough, as well. Obviously Nottingham Forest now in the playoff final, but when I was trying to record this originally yesterday, they were still in the semi-finals. But last night's performance from Brennan Johnson only just made me have a desire to see him at West Ham a little bit more than I did before the game kicked off as well. But had we had an adequate replacement for Jarrod Bowen this season on the right hand side of our attack, I think we might have seen him up front a little bit more. We did see him up front a little bit this season. Now, I'm not going to read out the statistics, but Gonzo struggled with that word the other day, didn't he? He got jumbled up when trying to say statistics. Must be a Hammer's Chat thing. But I'm going to leave them to the end because they're a bit boring and the data pool's quite small and not everybody likes them, so I'll leave them to the end because it only backs up my theory. So I'm trying to be unbiased in this one. So anyway, reason number 2 was what Moyes was talking about, really, and you can see it. You can see why he'd like to play Jarrod Bowen up front. And that leads into sort of reason number 3, which is the evolution of the number 9, if you like, in the Premier League or in football. You know, I spoke last week. Last week I did a strikers video with 4 players we're linked with, and I coined the phrase adequate strikerage, and one person in the comments really liked it, so I'm keeping it. I am keeping that phrase. I only need one person to say I like that, and I'm sticking with it. So thank you very much to that subscriber of the channel. You've caused this for the rest of the summer now, adequate strikerage. And I think Bowen, I almost wouldn't mind him being option number 3 up front next season for West Ham. Obviously Antonio, someone, and Jarrod Bowen. I think that would be a healthy option, a healthy 3 options for the striker. Now, I'm not obviously saying Bowen is only an alternative up front. Naturally, he's our first choice player on the right hand side. Like I said, I still think that's his best position. I just think being able to use him up front would not be a bad option. So in that video we spoke about the evolution of the number 9. And if I was to ask you to write down 5 things you think David Moyes wants in a forward this summer, when David Moyes goes into the transfer market this summer, what 5 things is he looking for in this striker? I bet you Jarrod Bowen ticks all 5 boxes. The movement, the finishing, his work rate, everything that David Moyes wants in a striker, Jarrod Bowen has got. The only thing I would suggest that he's perhaps lacking a little bit in comparison to what we see with Antonio is his hold-up play. That hold-up play and his ability in the air. I had a look at his underlying numbers, Jarrod Bowen, and funnily enough, his success in the air isn't actually that bad. It's quite impressive actually, in the 86th percentile, which is good. You know, it's really big numbers for that. So surprised me actually. I wasn't expecting to see that, that's for sure. So the evolution of the number 9 for the 3rd time, I'm going to try and talk about it. When you look at the Premier League now, you look at who's top. Man City, well, they don't have a number 9. You might argue Gabriel Jesus, but he's only played there for like about a month, 2 months this season, and granted he was excellent, scoring 4 goals in 1 game, but he's been played on the right more often than through the middle, so they've not played with a striker all season. You look at Liverpool, Firmino, I guess, used to be, but he's not even an out-and-out striker himself, is he? But this season we've seen Jota there, and more recently we've seen Sadio Mane there. Then 3rd in Premier League we've got Chelsea, Kai Havertz, and obviously I'm going to concede that Tottenham obviously have one, but look how good he is, world class. The days of Jamie Vardy sort of disappearing a little bit in the Premier League. There is obviously some other examples, Callum Wilson, Tiamu Pukki and stuff. There is clubs with proper strikers there. There's not really something that we've seen under David Moyes with Mikel Antonio and Marko Natovic. And the 2 strikers that we did have under David Moyes in both tenures, he wasn't overly keen on Sebastian Haller and Chicharito. He wasn't overly keen on them. He couldn't really get the best out of them. And therefore, I mean, in the one thing for clarity, what I will say, because somebody had said, when I said about how I think Ollie Watkins is the perfect striker, someone said, well, I thought you wanted a striker to play striker rather than a converted player. For clarity, I don't mind somebody that's already been converted, like Ollie Watkins. It's buying a winger like, say, Adama Traore, and then Moyes moulding him into a striker for next season. That's what I'm a little bit unsure of. I'm not quite down to that one, if you like. Anyway, evolution of the striker. So I think Jarrod Bowen ticks all the boxes essentially. Right, now I'm going to do the statistics. Not everybody likes this, I am aware of it, but just bear with me. So 7 games this season, Jarrod Bowen has started as the central player in the attack for West Ham United. 3 goals, quite impressive, but it's a small data pool. I'll be honest with you, I thought he played more as a striker for Hull than he actually did. When I went and checked his stats for Hull on WhoScored.com, I was surprised that he only started 6 games as the striker. But in those 6 games, he scored 4 goals. So the numbers are impressive. The numbers are suggesting that Jarrod Bowen would be a good striker. In his whole career, again, according to WhoScored, they don't have the Hereford stats, believe it or not. According to WhoScored, though, 19 games, the striker, 8 goals. Impressive, but it's a small data pool. You can't really read too much into it. But I had a little look at his expected goals, his XG. Again, not everybody's a fan of it, I am aware. Believe it or not, I don't think the statistics are the be-all and end-all, but I do think they're indicators, and I think those who use them correctly, or those who use them best, will really benefit from them. Every club has the same access to the same data. It's just how you interpret them is what I think sets you apart from each other, if that makes sense. Anyway, his XG, his expected goals, is 12.5 in the Premier League this season. He's got 12, so there you go. He's banging in the numbers, which is really good. I think any player that's sort of close to their mark, it's quite difficult to sort of surpass your XG. For example, for context, Mo Salah is minus 1.58 at the minute. So Bowen's minus a half, Salah's minus 1.58. And then if you go into FB reference, what they do, they look at Jarrod Bowen and they take a look at players around Europe that play in his position that's very similar to Jarrod Bowen, and they sort of rank them a little bit. In terms of Jarrod Bowen's finishing, he's in the 91st percentile, which is outstanding. We all know that. As West Ham fans, we know it. We see it week in, week out, how clinical he is. 18 goals in all competitions, 12 in the Premier League, 10 assists. Unbelievable player. And I do think he's our most important player. I don't think he's our best player. I think that's Declan Rice. But I think he's our most important. I've said it a few times now. I'll say it once more. It won't harm anyone, will it? And next season, I'm really looking forward to seeing him push on even further, actually. I guess the question is, how does he do that? Well, he gets into the England squad, scores more for West Ham, sets up more for West Ham as well. But next season, I just wouldn't mind him being an option as a striker. And like I said, I think if we had more options to cover for Jarrod Bowen this season, we might have seen him used as a striker a little bit more often. So while Moyes said he's my backup to Antonio, I don't necessarily disagree with that motion per se, but more around, well, what happens on the right of your attack, because he's fantastic there. So believe it or not, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to Jarrod Bowen. I'm not saying move him up front and leave him up front, but just next season we're going to have to get a little bit savvy in the transfer market this summer, because I don't think we've got a huge pot of money. And the Mail the other day said that David Moyes is going to be substantially backed in the transfer market. I mean, what does that mean? What's substantially backed? Is it 5 signings regardless of fees? What happens if he signs 2 players at 80 million? I'd argue that's substantially backed. It's only 2 players with 3 or 4 short. So I hate when they say that. There's also like the phrase, Moyes is going to have a transfer war chest. Well, what does that mean? How much is it? What's that? Is it 50 million? Is it 150 million? I would suggest 200 million is a war chest, but I would suggest 80 million is not. So where is it? I just think the phrases are too vague, if you know what I mean. So the Mail is suggesting Moyes is going to be substantially backed in this summer transfer window. Well, I don't think we're going to have that much to spend. I say that much. I think we're going to have plenty. I don't know, between 50 and 100 million is what I'm expecting us to spend net. Which again is a big discrepancy, but that's how unsure I am over the figure that we're going to have. Maybe 70, 80 million maybe to spend. It sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But if we were to sign one player for 50 million, more than half your budget's gone like that. And we need a few bodies in this summer because of players leaving. And I just think next season we're going to have to make sure that we've got a very good squad. We had a small squad, and Moyes has spoken about how he likes a small squad. Now, I don't necessarily have anything against that. I can see the advantages of it. Hell, Wolves got to the European football with a small squad, but I think a small squad only works if you've got the right small squad. Does that make sense? So you do have 3 options for your striker, even if it's, Bowen's your main man on the right, but he's also option number 3 up front. I think you get away with stuff like that. You need players that are versatile, that can play in different positions as well. So therefore, I think someone like Jarrod Bowen, and Ben Johnson as well. Ben Johnson can play right, can play on the left, can cover centre back at a push as well. People like that are just worth their weight in gold at West Ham. And Jarrod Bowen, I wouldn't mind seeing him up front now and again next season, because I think it'd be good. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. There's my random nonsense ramblings. If you enjoyed it, do drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow we've got the Brighton preview. Big game for West Ham, isn't it? Hopefully we can get 6 and the Europa League. And I've got lots of videos actually planned for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks actually. So I've got a series coming out where I take a look at each position at West Ham, and almost like a wish list per position if you want. We've got a squad list video coming out next week, which is taking a look at West Ham's current squad, but how it's going to look going into the summer, if you like. So the out of contract players are gone and the loan players are coming back and vice versa. So lots of stuff planned. Anyway, I'm going to disappear now before this computer crashes again. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new. Catch you tomorrow.